Hey, it's the Brian and Kindra Special Edition show.
That's right. We wanted to do a little bonus episode.
We did.
Okay, I'm pretty excited about this because we got to do one of our favorite things recently. And we got to go hang out at the High Plains Technology Center. And we visited with the seniors during their day called Senior Boot Camp. And we shared with them some information. I think we were supposed to talk a little bit about buying and selling. About renting versus buying. But we really focused heavily on, one, prep for purchase, but two, how to rent and how to do it smart. And so we wanted to share with everyone what we said, because I think some of the things that we said, man, if I'd have heard you said this to my kid, I would have been like, what?
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that you as parents, and also if your kiddos are like, I really think I might want to listen to that again. I know you wouldn't want to admit that, it's on the sly and stuff, but I want you to know what we said, because I really believe that this is truth. And one of the things that we shared with your children is that we're old. Sorry.
Been around.
I mean, you're a little older even.
Old.
We're old. Okay, so my children, 24, 25 years old. Your kids?
24, 20, whatever, 21, 13.
This is a whole other episode.
Yeah.
Trying to remember how old your children are.
That's their names.
Did I mention we were old?
Old names.
Yes, okay. I think your kids are 13, 21,
23,
24-ish.
24. Oh, yeah, she just turned 24.
24. Okay, because your oldest, my oldest, or my youngest are the same age.
Yep.
Okay, so all that to say, we've kind of been down some of these paths. One of the things that we know from being parents is that our kids don't listen to us, but they're going to listen to you.
That's right.
And we just assumed that was probably the case for yours as well. And we wanted to help you out a little bit, because some of this we know 100% you're going to agree with. Some of it, I'm afraid you might go, what did you just say? So let's go ahead and start with the ugly.
Let's do it.
God, I'm nervous.
I know.
Okay, here's what I told your kids. I told your kids to get a credit card.
Get a credit card.
Oh my gosh, I know. I can't believe I said it either. Please hear me out. Don't hang up, whatever. I don't know the words. Don't stop the podcast.
Yes.
Okay, please forgive me. Here's why. Because you just about have to have. I really don't even know how you build credit without your credit card. I don't know that your kids should be buying a house yet. My daughter bought her first house when she was 21 years old, and yours
23.
23. And I think that there's some risk in purchasing too young. So we're not in any way, shape, or form saying your kids should go out and buy a house. What I am thinking is how important it is to begin to build their own credit now, so that they are ready when it's time. And if we can help them to understand the importance of building the credit, of having the good credit history and not being crazy right now, then maybe we can save them some of the heartache that we see with our children, with our family members, with us, in our histories, those kinds of things. We want to help avoid some of the heartache that we know happens with credit. So here's what I said. I told your kids to get a credit card, maybe even two. And this is advice from Connie Rowland. She was with Bank 7 for a long time. And actually, she had to have this conversation with me because I didn't have any credit cards in my name. I had one credit card, and it wasn't a major credit card. And that's all that was in my name when I got divorced after 20 years. She's like, girl, what are you thinking? Okay, so they need to get a major credit card. They need to put it in their name. They need to put 1 tank of fuel onto that card every month. When the statement comes in, pay it off. 1 tank of fuel, pay it off. 1 tank of fuel, pay it off. And I mean, I know, bless their hearts, I could see some of them going, okay, we get it. But every time they use it, I want them to think, wait, pay it off. Now, it's imperative that they wait till the statement comes out, then pay it off. And then they do that same thing again. So this should be a recurring situation every single month. 1 tank of fuel, statement, pay it off. 1 tank of fuel, statement, pay it off. Over and over and over again, and create that cycle of healthy credit usage so that they can build their credit score, have the healthy credit score. Later, they can buy the house. Later, they can buy the car. Later, they can do all the things because they were smart with how they used credit now. I also encourage them, and I'm going to say it again, there's going to come a minute, seniors, whenever you guys are like, we want to go do the fun thing. And your buddies are like, Top Golf. And you're like, yay, wings and swings, let's go. No. If you don't have the money, don't do it. That's a little mom-like, and I'm sorry. But it's really for your good. Remember when you were a kid, you're about to get beat. This hurts you more than it hurts me.
Bet me.
Okay, sorry. You guys probably didn't beat your kids. Also, my parents didn't beat me. That was
No comment.
okay. Anyway, mostly in jest here. The important thing is that we don't use these credit cards to incur debt that's for fun.
Right.
We don't use them just willy-nilly. I don't know another phrase right now, but be smart with how you use it. When take a fuel statement, pay it off.
Right.
Over and over again. It's going to give you the credit score that you need.
And the credit card deal, so even if you have no credit, you can get a prepaid credit card. It sounds dumb, but
Right.
I just talked to a customer the other day and they were going to go ahead and get one. He called me because he said, I got to qualified for this credit card, but it's weird. I got to mail in. I got to send them $200. It seems like a scam. And I said, it's not. It's a Chase card. It is a prepaid credit card. So they want you to pay in $200 because you have no credit and they're going to avoid their risk. So then once you start using it, after 6 months or a year, when you get your credit and prove that you can pay your payments, they will refund you that $200. So you can prepay that, which then again, it will start building your credit.
Right. So great option to do that. Other lines of credit can help whenever they're ready to get their first home loan. And so that might be that they put their phone in their name. Some of them might be able to put their car insurance in their name. Later they buy their car, maybe get them on the note for that, unless they can do it on their own because they've been building their credit with these credit cards. So that was the first thing we talked about. Second, tell us a little bit about the land. Oh, did you have one more thing?
Yes. On the loans, there's lots of ways to help your children or family or friends get loans without co-signing the notes. So there's opportunities there. If you don't mind, just call me. We'll help you walk through that. So for example, I helped my niece build credit. She bought a car, but she needed, they wouldn't loan her the money. And so it was a $5,000 car, $8,000 car. So what I did, instead of just loaning her the money, I put my money in a CD at the bank, 7, and Misty Thompson down there then loaned my niece the money against my CD. My name was not on her loan. I did risk my money, but I'm building interest off of their money. So it's essentially me loaning them the money, but it built her credit quickly. 12 months later, she could go buy a house. I mean, she's not ready to, but credit worthy wise, she had already built her credit in 12 months doing that way. So there's a strategy there as well. If you're trying to help somebody build credit without tying up your credit or your leverage.
Right. But I think it also helps. One of the things that I think is so important about helping our 18 to 25-year-olds build their credit is helping them to do it in a way where they have the responsibility and they see the hurt. Because I remember so well my daughter, when she was building her credit, I mean, every month when Credit Karma updated, she'd be like, Mom, my credit went from this to this. Because remember, they start with nothing.
Right.
And so, I mean, you've got a 400 credit score, which sounds like if somebody says, I have got a 400 credit score, you think, you're not buying a house. But you can always build or rebuild. But we want to teach them how to build so they don't have to rebuild. We want to teach them in a way that will help them to gain that responsibility and maturity so that they don't abuse it. We want to be very structured and very careful how we use these credits. So this is why we've said what we've said.
Yes.
So alternative lines of credit, again, insurance, phone in their name, things like that.
Yep.
Okay, Landlord-Tenant Act. You hit on a couple of things.
So the Oklahoma Landlord-Tenant Act, you can search it in Google. Any state you're living in, they will have some kind of a Landlord-Tenant Act that describes the rules and responsibilities for the tenants and the landlords. So just search it. The Oklahoma Landlord-Tenant Act is really short, like, I don't know, so many pages, but the middle of the document, it has, you'll first start reading, you're like, this has nothing to do with it. It's got like storage building leases and commercial information. And you get down to the middle of it and then it's like residential.
Right.
And there's only a couple of pages, but it explains if you're going to go out and rent something, what you're responsible for, what as a tenant, and what you're responsible for as a landlord, if you're the landlord. I mean, if you have a leaky faucet that's creating mold or issues or problems as a tenant,
right,
you are required to turn it in. And as a landlord, you are required to fix it. And they give you the time frames and how to take care of those things as if you need to proceed.
It also has a pretty extensive glossary.
Yes.
and we kind of glossed over that a little bit with students, but we think that that's super helpful. Nathan, our producer, is that what I'm supposed to call you? What's your name? Yes, I did it right. I make up all kinds of fun stuff this time. I did it right. Okay, so Nathan, our producer for this podcast, has shared with us a couple of different times that we accidentally fall into realtor speak, and it's almost a foreign language if you're not used to what we do. So we know that glossary is also just as important as those two residential pages. So you might even want to have that for yourself, have it with your student, share it. You guys look through it a little bit together and just have some ideas to help them to see the legalities of what they need to do and what you can hold your landlord accountable for.
It is the Oklahoma Landlord Tenant Act.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Next up, lease and terms. This is one of the things that we really talked about extensively. Brian's got some stories. I just want your student, I want you guys, you students, to really, really, really pay attention to what's in your lease. Read the entire document. It's boring. It's not fun. I know that. It will probably put you to sleep. But it's so important that you know what you're getting into. You're looking more than just how much is the deposit, how much is the rent, who's paying your utilities, who's paying for the internet, what are the terms, like is it a 6-month lease, is it a year lease, does it go to a month-to-month, or do you immediately have to vacate? How do you vacate? How do you get out of your lease? Just because it ends on December 31, does that mean it's over? Or do you need to have given a 30-day or whatever type of notice in order to vacate the property properly? What do you need to do in order to make sure that you're going to get your deposit back? So you want to pay attention to all of those kinds of things and make sure that you know what you're getting into. I want to do real quick before we get into your stories, because we forgot to talk about this with the students. Little bonus tip, you need to take like a time-stamped video, time-stamped photos of the property before you move in.
Yes.
I would be tempted to even try to meet the landlord the day that you're moving in and do that with them. And I don't even know if they do that, but this is, obviously my kids didn't rent very much. Anya moved out of my house and straight into her own. But this is one of the concerns that I've always had. Now she's living in an apartment. She's renting her property here and she's living in an apartment elsewhere. And when we were helping her move in, I was like, oh my gosh, please tell me you took some pictures of all this. Because otherwise, you're probably going to be required to fix it whenever you move out. And you don't want to take on somebody else's burden.
Right.
So, okay, your turn. Tell us some stories. Why do we need to read that lease?
Oh, gosh. So, number one, the most important tip of all is when you move, most people in other parts of the country, when they move in, they can't afford rent, so they get a roommate. If you get a roommate or two roommates, and you sign that lease with them, you are 100% responsible for the lease. Each one of you.
So this is the trickiest thing. Like, you have to say it over and over and over again, because whenever we're in the excitement of it and we're signing this lease and
I can afford a third.
Yeah. And you think, oh, rent's $900, I pay $300. Cool. We got this going on. This ain't a problem. It's not a problem until somebody else loses their job or decides they want a new one and they don't have any income in the middle. It's not a problem until you get sick and you miss 3 weeks of work because you had mono or something, and then you don't have any of your income from your job. It's not a problem until your roommate can't pay. And then they're not the ones with the problem. You are. Because you're 100% responsible, even though there's two other people living there.
Yeah. So we had the situation. So my daughter got two friends, moved out of the dorms, leased a piece of a apartment. They were, great friends for the first, 8 or 9 hours. And then it got messy. It was longer than that, but you know what I mean? People are hard to live with.
Are you sure?
I know I am.
Not me.
I know I am. And so people are hard to live with, and so roommates are complicated. So if you have a roommate, just remember things are going to get tough. It's not just, rainbows and lollipops all day. So we got into the situation where they got not so happy at each other. And my daughter wanted out. I read the lease. I said, here's what you got to do to get out of the lease. And I made her do all the work because she chose the lease and chose the apartment and chose her friends. And I didn't. I said, here's your job. And I gave her the advice, made her do it. And so we ended up negotiating out of that lease. She lost her deposit. She paid a fee to get out. And I made them, they didn't want her to, but I forced her to make sure that the other two people signed that they were responsible for the entire lease, and they released her. So they wanted to keep her in. She was the moneymaker, and she had the credit. And that's why they got the lease. So I think a parent had to step in and sign on the other side, but it didn't matter to me as long as my daughter got out. So that it was high stress, and it actually came down to okay, they just give me the approval, but I have to be out tomorrow, or I got to pay all next month's rent. And I'm like, all right, I'll be there in a minute.
Right.
3 hours later, I mean, we moved her out in one. It was crazy. So we got her moved out in one day. And then the second apartment she moved into was overread the lease, made sure everything was right, did all our things, checked all the boxes. She did great, lived there a year, gave her notice, moved out, house was in perfect shape, no big deals.
Right.
Third lease. I kind of stepped out of the picture. She found her own lease. I mean, gosh dang, she's 22, 3 years old. I don't have to, 21, whatever she was then. She's been through this twice. She found a great apartment. She signs the lease. During the lease, she's like, I really want to buy a house. I want to buy a house. And so we start looking. We spend every time I go to Wichita, I look for houses. So, for 3, 4 years, 5 years, I've been looking for houses. We finally found one. And it was 60 days before our lease was up. And I said, hey, we need to make sure we give your landlord notice, standard 30 days. We want to make sure we give them a 30-day notice. I didn't read the lease. Hey, don't forget, so as we get to about 30 days before closing, I said, hey, make sure you send a 30-day notice to your lease. Do it a certified letter proving that you did it. So you have proof. Make sure you have proof that you sent it to them. They were a little stinkers anyway, so we had some issues with some maintenance and some issues that they wouldn't fix dishwasher and some other things. And so whatever. So we wanted to make sure we protect ourselves. So she sends in her notice. They send back a reply and said, oh, yeah, you didn't read your lease. It's a 90-day notice to vacate. We're like, this is crazy because it's a 12-month lease. So if you sign a 12-month lease, it's a 12-month lease. And at the end of 12 months, you either get out or renegotiate. That's not how this lease read. And most leases don't.
Right. But that's why I keep hounding on read the lease.
So we had to give them a 90-day notice. We lost a whole month's rent. She did get her deposit back and kept good standing on her credit because they can report to credit now.
Right.
But so just the biggest tip, according to the Landlord-Tenant Act, is you have to give a 30-day standard. It could be different in your lease. Read your lease.
Right.
How many times can we say that today?
I know, right?
Read that lease.
They're like, okay, read the lease. We get it. Your kid said that to us too.
And so 30 day is a standard. Even if you go into a month-to-month agreement, you just move in with no written lease, it is a month-to-month 30-day notice leave. You have to give them 30 days. They have to give you 30 days. So make sure you do that anytime you're in a lease, even if you sign a 12-month or 2-year or 16-month, whatever. Make sure you give a 30-day notice minimum, but read your lease.
Okay, next up. I'm kind of limited-minded, I guess, whenever it came to rental properties. I don't remember renting. I think early in my last marriage, my first marriage, I don't like saying that. It sounds so awful, but that's the way my life is. So, okay. Way long time ago, back before the dinosaurs roamed the earth and stuff, whenever we did rent that one house, I had nothing to do with it. I didn't read the lease. So I moved in and then we moved and I have no idea. I knew nothing about leases. So all I knew about rental properties was later, whenever I started managing properties, and they were mostly houses, a few apartments. Never occurred to me that there's different ways to rent. But you have found some alternatives to what I considered a traditional renting style.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about what somebody might look for if they're going to another area, especially those areas like where your middle daughter is in Georgetown, that is just so crazy.
It is crazy expensive. So my second daughter moved to Georgetown, Texas to flight school. And we went down and spent a week trying to find her a place to live. And we looked through some not so pleasant locations. The cheapest place we found was around, it was like $1,200 a month lease, but then you had to pay for your trash service, a portion of the water, you had to pay your electric bill, you had to pay the cable bill if you didn't have to pay cable, but your internet if you wanted it. So you had all these extra fees. So her one room, 500 or 600 square foot apartment was going to be around $1,600 or $1,700 a month.
Go back to that.
One room.
500 square feet.
Yes.
One room. How much?
After her, she was going to have to budget $1,600 or $1,700 a month.
Crazy.
So, which is not so bad if you move to other areas.
I know, but
and so,
I'm a little spoiled.
Yeah, and so we detoured off of that because it wasn't in our budget for that, and so we ended up purchasing a camper, moving into an RV park. We were paying $450 a month for the RV park, and then we paid our own electric bill, which was around $100 a month. So she was in at $550 a month, free internet, free water, free septic, sewer. She had access to washer dryer. We actually put a washer dryer in her camper. So it was pretty nice living for her for a while.
Right.
It got pretty hard in the rough winters of Georgetown, Texas. It got down to like 30. But it's not a great, campers aren't really designed to live in full time.
Right.
And so this was a temporary situation. We couldn't find anywhere else to live. So we keep looking at apartments, and we didn't like the leases. We didn't like the rates. We didn't like the locations. We were having a hard time. So we put an all bulletin out to the Georgetown community webpage on Facebook. And a lady called and said, hey, I have a house. My husband passed away. I've got a 4-bedroom house, really nice location, and I really don't want to sell it. I'm in a really cheap interest rate, but it'd be nice to have a little bit of, I think it was really the company thing, but the financial assistance during that time in our life. And so we rented 1 bedroom and a bathroom for $1,000 a month. I was great with it, fit our budget, and it was included utilities, security. Somebody was there to watch her and take care of her, and that turned out really well, better than we'd ever anticipated. She's kind of become family to them. Went on vacation with them. She might come back and visit us now. We might be the step parents now, but nonetheless, it was a great option. So sometimes cohabitation is the answer. So you might want to look into that. It's sometimes complicated to get those. And then again, it's complicated because people are hard to live with. So, and then the third thing, so I have a buddy that moved to San Francisco. They moved into a 1-bedroom apartment. I think there's 3 or 4 of them, and they bunk bedded it up. Bunk beds in the living room, bunk beds in the bedroom. They each paid $1,000 or some dollars. It was outlandish amount of money. I think it was $1,000 a piece to live in this apartment.
Every time I take Tilly, my dog, to her own room, that's a big, huge room with her kennel in it, I say, gosh, dog, you got it so lucky not having to pay me. I think about these guys bunking it up like that. Yeah. And I'm like, dang.
Which is the joys of living in Woodward, Oklahoma.
It's just crazy to think of how we live versus the big city life. Mm-hmm. And again, that's why I really want for us to be able to evaluate these different circumstances so that our students can be prepared, so that we as parents can be prepared whenever it's time to help them find that living quarter.
Absolutely.
So, okay. I didn't mean to.
So that was all that. No. So the crazy stories.
I do tease my dog now, though, because I have kids at home.
So now we are actually, she's found a roommate, and she's looking for the next opportunity, and she is apartment shopping, and she's going to be paying $1,000 a month for half of a 2-bedroom apartment. And that's still pretty. Does
she remember how much she's responsible for?
And so she is going to be, because I've told her, good luck, I'm not signing your lease. So keep your credit up, make sure you have the money. She's got a job, and so I think she'll be fine. But again, as a parent, if you sign that lease for your child, you are 100% responsible for that lease.
Right.
So you may love your child, but they tend to sometimes derail and invite people into their house for fun and games.
Right.
And you are responsible for all the damages and delay, because they will come after the person with the most money first.
One of the things that you shared that I think was vitally important is sometimes like you're only focused on the rent amount. So particularly like here in Woodward, and I'm sure this is other places as well, you might be able to rent like a manufactured home a lot less than you can rent a single family home. But you wanted to share some tips and tricks about that. Utilities.
Okay.
I had to remind you, my bad.
Yeah, no. So just everything that goes in with the house. So if you rent a house in Woodward or anywhere, you may then have your water bill, trash bill, yard maintenance, internet bill.
But above and beyond that, because I mean, we know this, but above and beyond that, one of the things that I have not considered and that you did a great job of sharing with the seniors is that the cost, so like a manufactured home here might rent for $400 a month. My cute little tiny house, 975 square feet, might rent for $1,000 a month, which sounds crazy, but it's true. Okay, so you might be thinking, oh my gosh, we need to do this 3-bedroom, 2-bath manufactured home for $600 instead of my 3-bed, 1.5-bath for $900 or $1,000. Unfortunately, when you move in, you might be blown away because my utilities are only, since I've insulated, I don't think I've hit over $200 a month for utilities at my cute little tiny house. But you might be $500-$600 deep in utilities at your $500 or $600 a month manufactured
And I've
home.
definitely met with some people helping on their budgets, which I kind of like to do. And their budget, they did move into a double wide, and their electric bill when they first moved in was $500 and some a month. And he thought, man, maybe it's just because it's really cold out. And then the next month is $500, and then the next month was $400.
Man.
They didn't. I mean, it's hard to budget for all that. Of course, they're putting in more insulation, did some modifications, actually own the house, but it still comes back to remember, like, to call and get your average utilities before you take possession or before you sign that lease.
We just don't want anybody to end up in that position where they move in and they think, oh,
I can afford $500 a month rent, and then the utilities are more than the house.
Right. You can afford $500 a month rent, but you may not be able to afford the other. Oh my gosh. So just kind of pay attention to some of those things whenever you're ready. Next thing that we told your children is definitely begin now to be ready to buy later. We strongly encouraged, again, the credit card. And y'all got to know, I stinking hate credit cards. I am hateful about credit card usage within my home. So this is not said with any kind of ease. This is very uncomfortable to say, but the credit card, 1 tank of gas, statement paid off. Of course, we are encouraging that. That is how you build your credit. In addition to that, as your children get older and they can absorb a little bit more, they're going to be putting those other lines of credit into their name, their phone bills, their insurance, all those kinds of things. And then we've really encouraged them to already be saving.
Yes.
Right now it might be Right now it might be $20 a paycheck or whatever. It may seem ridiculous, but if they start now with that savings account and begin every single time they get a paycheck to start building that savings whenever it comes time to buy that house, they are just more prepared. They're more disciplined. They're ready. One of the biggest tips that we can give is whenever they get ready, when they know within a year or two they're going to start buying, they need to be looking at the price they want for their house payment. And whatever that amount is over their rent, they need to be putting that into their savings account so that they already feel like they're making their house payment. So these are just some things we really wanted to share. We love students. It's not something that we can do every single day. We're not really geared to be an in-class teacher, but we love students and we want them to succeed, and we want to give them these tools to help them to do that much better than I did. I mean, let me give you a list of my mistakes.
Sure, trip through it.
So we just wanted to share all that. We hope that it's helpful, and we hope it helps you. We hope you listened further than when I said get a credit card, so you knew our hearts in that, because boy, we sure didn't mean to upset you. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for being with us and hanging out with us to talk about your students. We want to wish them the very best. Congratulations on their graduations.
Yep. Yeah, I'm Brian Cook, 580-334-2303.
Kindra Brown, 580-216-0090.
Yeah, call us for all your housing questions, rent questions, contract budget questions. We'd love to help you.
But not your parenting questions. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.